Okay, so I'm just going to tell a quick little story about coal. You're going to hear a lot about oil today as well, but we got to talk about coal. And this story I've called 4 Steps Forward and 1 Step Back. I may work at the Wilderness Committee, but I work for my nieces and nephews, and it's their future that I care about. It's their climate that I'm trying to save. But when I looked at the situation over the last couple of years, there were 6, and I mean 6 enormous coal exporting terminals proposed for the west coast of the United States, across Oregon and Washington. And really, honestly, I really thought that was the end. I didn't think we were going to be able to deal with the situation. And then a group of folks called Power Past Coal came together, and I see a few of you over here, so give Power Past Coal a round of applause. So what Power Past Coal did was they got in and organized communities, and they said, no way to this. This is not happening. And we took 3 steps forward, because from 6 of those large coal terminals, 3 fell just because they became, well, not something coal exporters wanted to do. So the backlash was so strong that 3 fell. And that was a wonderful thing to see. Last month, there was another one that fell, and that was the one at Moreau Port in Oregon. And at that point, I really felt that we were so close to stopping coal exports on our west coast, because the governor of Oregon was actually against coal, and that's purely because of citizen pressure. But 3 days later, a permit was issued in Vancouver for a coal terminal. Don't worry, this has a good ending. I'm not trying to bum you out. On that same day, the coal industry, the coal lobbyists in Oregon, started to advertise the fact that Oregon was stupid to let those jobs go by, because Canadians were going to take those jobs and ship that coal. And on that same day, someone wrote a letter to me, a piece of hate mail, which said, I was really disappointed that that permit was issued in Vancouver. Disappointed only that I couldn't see your face. And this person went on about us being eco-socialists, us having no chance, and us not succeeding. And that was a very, very, very tough day. But something happened that day that was really important. That was a phone call from who is going to be our next speaker. And together, we started to put this event together. We said we were going to put Americans, Canadians, tribal representatives, First Nations representatives here in this park to say no to shipments of coal, gas, and oil from this west coast. And I'm so glad to see you here today. The good news is that a lawsuit has been brought against the permit that issued for the coal terminal here in the Surrey area. It's just outside Vancouver. The folks that organized that lawsuit are here. Give them a round of applause. Communities in Coal. But the message is clear. Unless we stand together as Americans, as Canadians, as tribal leaders, as First Nation community members, unless we all stand together, they're going to find a way out. And if we do stand together, we can take another step forward. We can stop coal, oil, and gas leaving our west coast together. Okay, I want to introduce our next speaker. Is there any Harry Potter fans out there? So picture a wizard that was Hermione Granger and Harry Potter all rolled into one. Because the next speaker is a true climate wizard. She's the energy campaigner at the Georgia Strait Alliance. I am a partner of hers on a campaign called Save the Salish Sea from Becoming a Carbon Corridor. She's the most organized organizer there is. She's taken me back from the ledge a couple of times in the organizing of this event. Please welcome to the stage, give a round warm applause for Alexandra Woodsworth.
Hi everyone. Wow, look at you all. This is awesome and amazing and so exciting. And to think that these types of events are happening right now over this weekend in cities and towns and places around the world. to demand true and real and fast and fair transition to a different kind of economy and a different kind of future. It's so inspiring, and I just want to thank you all so much for being here, and start with a big round of applause for you all for being here today. And it is so easy to get cynical. It's so easy to feel like these moments don't matter, like coming out once a year is just not worth doing. But I want to just check that before we even go there, because these are the moments that we remember. These are the moments that keep us going. They feed the flames and the fires and the passion of our activism and our organizing and our work. So they are really important moments. They're the moments that are the building blocks of a social movement. That is what it's going to take to defeat the climate crisis. So let's not get cynical. Let's all be really proud to be here today and to be standing with so many people around the world. And I just want to take a moment to honor and acknowledge and thank the work of Rueben George and Jewell James and all of their friends and relations and families, and just to take that moment and to say that we are so grateful for the leadership that you are showing. We are so proud and honored to be standing with you in this shared struggle, and we are just want to really say a huge and massive thank you, and to the inspiring words from both of you. You are, you know, the leaders, and you keep us going, and we are so honored to be here with you today. So we are standing here at this place, and you have all made this journey to come to this line, this artificial border at the 49th parallel between Canada and the United States. And we have the Salish Sea in the background. And I want to talk a little bit about why you've all come here today, why we've made this happen, and why it's so important that we're here in this place. And that's because the Salish Sea, this magnificent, magnificent body of water that is home to, you know, the most incredible biodiversity that exists, you know, in the most pristine parts of the world, exists right here on our doorsteps of these two major cities of Vancouver and Seattle. This magnificent place full of orca and beauty and clean beaches is at threat. It is under risk, and it is in danger of becoming one of the largest fossil fuel shipment corridors in the world. And we are here to say, no, not on our watch. We are not going to let that happen here. So right now, no fewer than 12 different coal, oil, and LNG projects are proposed on both sides of the Canada-US border. And together that means over 300 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions pumping into our atmosphere every year if all these projects go ahead. That's more than the combined emissions of 90 nations around the world. And we are not going to let that happen. And the purpose of this, and the reason why we have such an important role to play, is that these are landlocked fuels that are trying to get to Asian markets, which means that you and I and all the people we work with and all the people that we can call upon are the thin green line that are standing in the way of those fossil fuel companies getting to those markets, and we are bottling up the fossil fuels that we know we need to keep in the ground if we are going to stop the climate crisis. So that's why we're here today, and that's why the work that we're all doing and you're all doing, and by being here you're doing it, is so important. And for too long, we've been fighting each of these projects in isolation. We've been fighting Kinder Morgan, and we've been fighting different LNG projects, and we've been fighting the tar sands up in Canada. And you have been doing such incredible work on coal down in the US. But we need to stop fighting them in isolation. It's a giant game of whack-a-mole if we don't bring them all together. And it's terrifying because each of these projects are so damaging. They all have their own reasons to be so worried about in their own right. And when you add them up all together, it is truly scary, and there is such a danger of and such an amount of work to be done here. And obviously the climate impacts are, you know, the reason we're here today, but it's not just about the emissions that are going to be pumped out into our atmosphere. It's about oil spills. And we know that when the oil spills, it doesn't magically stop at the 49th parallel. It doesn't stop in the middle of the ocean. Oil spilled anywhere in the Salish Sea affects all of us in the Salish Sea. So there are all kinds of reasons why we should care about what's happening on the other side of the border. There are all kinds of reasons to stand up and protect it. And you know, we share this coast. We share one coast. We share one climate. We share this ocean, and we share this regional economy that depends on a healthy ocean, a beautiful ocean. If we, however, are going to be that thin green line, if we're going to be that bottleneck, we need to start working together as much as we can across the border. And by being here today, we are sending that message. We are telling decision makers that we are going to unite, we are going to work across the border, and we are not going to let this happen on our watch. But we also know that these rallies, We have to do them and they're important, but we have to continue. We need to do this every day. We need to go back to our communities and back to our homes and continue this work. So that's why today we, 350 Seattle and Wilderness Committee and Georgia Strait Alliance are collectively launching the pledge to save the Salish Sea and to stop the Salish Sea from becoming a carbon corridor. And you see a giant tanker over there. It's a 20-foot oil tanker with messages on it, penned on water drops. And those are people's pledges to say, I commit to take action to stop the Salish Sea from becoming a carbon corridor, and I commit to working together with allies and partners and friends and new neighbors you're meeting here today in the future and ongoing across the border all year long to make this happen. So I really want to invite every one of you here today to sign the pledge, to make your commitments on those water drops. There's people passing through the crowd, accepting pledge signatures on clipboards. You can sign them at lots of the tables over there. And I really want to ask you to go and do it. Do it now, do it while Dana's singing next, do it sometime today, but please do it, because that's the way we're going to keep in touch, and that's the way we're going to keep this incredibly powerful moment of bringing us all together here going when we all go home tomorrow and carry on with the important work that we're doing. I just want to say a few more words before I let Dana onto the stage, which is a little bit about anger and a little bit about hope. You know, we're told to keep it positive and to talk about the positives, but honestly, I'm angry, and I bet a lot of you here are really angry as well about what's happening in this place. I'm angry that this place I love, this beautiful, amazing place is being transformed and reduced and threatened into a shipping lane for coal and oil and gas. That's not what the Salish Sea is for. That's not why we are here. That's not why we choose to live here. That's not what makes it special. So I'm angry that they're doing this to my home. And I think a lot of you are angry about that as well. I'm angry at the failure of our governments. I'm angry at the failure of our so-called leaders at so many levels of government who are not only stalling, who are not only failing, but are, in our case in Canada, are actively pushing in the opposite direction. And time again, we have been let down by those governments. And time again, we have realized that we need to step up and lead from the grassroots and from the social movements, because those governments are not making those changes for us. So it is up to us. And that's why I'm so glad to see all of you here today. And by seeing you here, I know you're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let this happen. And I also hear stories day after day of hope that do make me realize that we are winning. And one of those I just want to give a little mention to right now is happening in Burnaby, which is a suburb of Vancouver, where they are the ground zero for the Kinder Morgan pipeline. And right now, this municipality of Burnaby is standing up to the largest pipeline company in North America and the federal government and the provincial government and saying, we are not going to let this pipeline through our community. So I want to give a huge shout out to all the people in Burnaby and to Mayor Derek Horgan, who has vowed to stand in front of the bulldozers as they try and build that pipeline through his community and say, look what a local community is doing to stop this from happening in their backyard. Another story I heard last week is about the Athabasca Chippewayan First Nation, who are one of the most hardest hit downstream communities in Alberta, suffering from huge cancer and other types of impacts from living right next to this, you know, the dirtiest industrial project on the planet. And they are, at the moment, launching a transition to powering their communities through solar energy. So they are been one of the most vocal opponents, but they know that they need to transition themselves. We all need to make these transitions in our lives. And this is a community that has been put down and trampled upon by the tar sands. And they're standing up and saying, we're going to lead by powering our community with solar, which is so inspiring to hear. And following on from this gigantic international event that's happening right now, there's a group called the Pacific Climate Warriors who next month are building traditional canoes. They are from the Pacific Island nations that are right now suffering the effects of climate change, that are losing their homes, that are literally going under the water because of sea level rise. And they have built traditional canoes, and they are taking them to the world's largest coal port in Newcastle to take their fight to the source of the problem, which is the fossil fuel industry, and say, we will not let this happen. And their message is, we're not drowning, we are fighting. And I find that so incredibly inspiring, and I want everyone to go check out the Pacific Climate Warriors. And I'll tell you the last thing that gives me hope. To be honest, it's sitting in the room with the people that I've been helping to organize this event with and all the amazing volunteers. It's going back and talking to my neighbors. It's sitting down with people and making plans and getting organized. Because honestly, shouting at the TV and clicking on depressing Facebook posts is soul destroying. But what's not is standing up and stepping up and stepping out the front door and coming together and getting organized. And that's what we're doing here today. That's what we're doing with the pledge. Please go sign it. And thank you all so much for being here, for being such a fantastic inspiration. Thank you.